Well, good morning, Prospect family. Just wanted to give a little shout out on this Friday morning as we all get ready for the weekend. You know, our state, like much of the nation, is eagerly anticipating the transition of stages as we deal with the reality of the COVID-19 pandemic. We're grateful to be out of stage one and moving through stage two. We are hopeful that next week is going to bring a move to phase three. Phase three will allow churches like Prospect to begin hosting small groups, and if we have parking lot worship services, allow you to actually use the bathroom. That'll be a very good thing. It'll allow us to potentially offer, in a very safe manner, communion in the midst of those parking lot services. We'll be able to use the offices more freely. It'll just be a great transition for us. We can't wait for phase four and phase five. We know those are a little bit farther down the road, but I'm grateful that we're at the brink of phase three. Grateful that that means I'll be able to get a haircut, even though it looks like I'll have to wait till June 8th for that schedule to open up. I want to talk a little bit about a different kind of phase transition, and that's one that we're going through in Mark's gospel. Timothy Tennant, the president of Asbury Seminary, defines a gospel in this wonderful way. He says, a gospel is any carefully crafted, God-breathed, Spirit-inspired proclamation of the good news of Jesus Christ. Any carefully crafted, God-breathed, spiritually inspired proclamation of the good news of Jesus Christ. And since the beginning of January, we've been looking at Mark's God-breathed, Spirit-inspired, carefully crafted telling of the life and ministry of Jesus Christ. And so just want to recap a little bit as we're in a transitional stage ourselves. Phase one was the beginning of this gospel. If you remember, Mark dives right into the life and ministry of Jesus. There's a brief mention of his birth, but Jesus is immediately standing in baptismal waters. He's calling disciples, and then in very fast-paced fashion, he is moving around the region. He's preaching with great power. He's casting out demons, and he's performing miracle after miracle after miracle. And in phase one, the crowds are growing, and the excitement and enthusiasm for this new prophet, who might just be the new Moses, grows and it grows and it grows. Phase one comes to an end in Mark chapter 8, verse 29, when we hear the famous declaration from Peter. Jesus, you are the Messiah. You're the Savior. You're the anointed one. We covered phase one of Mark's very detailed and specific telling of the life of Jesus in January, March, and the first week of April. Actually, in the beginning of April, we leapt ahead to phase three. Phase three begins in Mark chapter 11 with the triumphal entry of Jesus into Jerusalem. Phase three takes us through Holy Week, through Jesus' interaction and the tension he has with the religious leaders of his day. It takes us through Passover and the Last Supper to Friday's cross on Calvary, and ends with the glorious story of resurrection life. That was our mid-April focus, phase three. And then from the end of April through May, we've gone back to phase two, where Jesus takes that declaration, Jesus, you are the Messiah, and he begins to call the disciples in a very slow-paced fashion, and he gets them together. There's no more big crowds. There's been very few miracles, but Jesus is taking the disciples and he's teaching them, you are absolutely right that I am the Savior, and you have absolutely no idea what that really means. And in a very slow-paced, laborious fashion, he is trying to help them understand what it means for the Savior to go through a cross, what the Savior came to offer us, and what it means to be a disciple who picks up their own cross to follow Christ. We've been on that journey for the past 6 or 7 weeks. If we had a crystal ball, maybe we would have done things a little differently in 2020. We would have started in phase two. We would have got all of us who call Prospect home and consider ourselves disciples of Christ right there in phase 2, and we would have spent 2 months really looking deeply at what it means to be a disciple of Christ. Then we would have gone to phase 3 in the midst of Holy Week, and we would have spent the last 6 weeks back in phase 1 just telling those miraculous stories so that everyone who's been joining us for online worship could be a part of those glorious statements of what Jesus came to offer us as the Savior of the world, as the one who heals blind eyes, who helps the crippled walk, who touches lepers and gives them a spiritual and physical cleansing. That would have been maybe a great way to help us offer Christ to the world in 3 distinct phases. But I'm grateful that as we come to the end of phase 2, we get one more miracle, one more great opportunity for transformation through the touch of Jesus. And so I hope you're making plans to join us in worship on Sunday as we take a look at that last great miracle, the last great convert. And I hope you'll maybe even read ahead in Mark chapter 10 in the healing of blind Bartimaeus. And maybe even now you'll begin to ask yourself, why is this the greatest miracle save for the resurrection of Christ itself? Can't wait to worship with you even in a virtual world on Sunday, Prospect, and hope that your weekend gets off to a great start. Thanks. God bless you. Bye.